writers, it's Nancy. I hope you are ready for some BS today because I have an awesome episode. Today we're going to be talking with traditionally published author Mona Shroff, who is a good friend of mine from the early days. She has 10 books out. She works with Harlequin, a couple different imprints, and we'll talk about that. But she also offers some really interesting thoughts on plotting and kind of has a different process than a lot of the other authors that I have spoken with. And so I find the way she thinks about writing to be really entertaining and interesting. And it just goes to show that there is no right way. We all do this thing a little differently, and that's what makes this so fun. In personal news, let's see, back to school. My kids went back to school last week. That means there's a lot going on. This is the first year in a couple years that they're not at the same school, which just means that the big one is no longer taking the littler one to school or picking him up. They're on totally different schedules. And so I have had to remember what it's like to drive a lot in traffic. And I'm always looking for like the secret back way to the school so that I don't have to wait in the pickup line. I actually think I found it. So I'm not going to share because I don't want anyone else going that way. But so that's personal news. Otherwise, writing. I have 2 Vela stories that I work on each week, and that's kind of my fun writing. Although my whole life is fun writing, really. But I've also got a kind of a lit RPG thriller type of thing that has sort of, it's one of those things that I just kind of had this idea. And I'm in a place in my writing life right now because I think I've moved into a new genre and I'm kind of more open, where I've been like, all right, I'm going to write that too. So I have 4 or 5 different projects in different Scrivener files right now. And I really waffle. I'd be curious to hear how you guys work with this because I waffle sometimes about whether it is better to let my brain play like that and just write what I want when I want, or if it is better from a ideation creativity standpoint to focus entirely on one thing at a time. There is a big part of me that is arguing with the rest of me about how I need to just buckle down and finish up the second cozy in the Salt Cliff series, which is about halfway done right now. I had kind of a storm of progress on it in the last couple days, but I don't know if it, like, I get afraid of losing momentum on other things. But ideally, I think I would write one thing at a time. And I don't know why I don't do that. It makes perfect sense to do that. That's a very smart thing to do. Turns out many of the things that I like to do are not the smart things. However, I am trying to be a little bit more gentle with myself and embrace the way that I do things. Because as I am learning, the more authors I talk to in this podcast, I'm not wrong. And you're not wrong either. The way that we choose to do things is our way. That is not to say that there are not some mistakes. I have made most of them, so I can verify that there are many mistakes to be made. But I don't think that honoring your own process is one of them. I think that finding a way to work your own process into a disciplined production system that serves your business is a fine way to be. So I guess that's kind of a caveat. At any rate, in publishing news, for Nancy at least, my book comes out tomorrow, my cozy mystery. So if you're looking for Gilmore Girls meets Murder, She Wrote, that's how I'm marketing Keeled Over at the Cliffside, which is a cozy mystery set in a coastal town in Northern California, which may or may not be Carmel by the Sea, where I've spent a lot of time and got married, where my parents got married, and where I spend every single Thanksgiving. Might be kind of loosely based on that town. Anyway, Salt Cliff by the Sea, or is it Carmel by the Sea and Salt Cliff on the Sea? See, it's confusing. Is a tiny town where there is a bed and breakfast on the cliffside. And my heroine inherits it from her sister, who passes very suddenly and a little bit mysteriously and leaves behind the inn, uh, her innkeeper, her manager, who kind of becomes a sidekick, and her niece, who is 12 years old. So there is a strong Gilmore Girls vibe, as because I love that show, as Dahlia, my sleuth, moves in and has to kind of take over a life that she is utterly unprepared for. The only thing that she is good at is baking. She has always been a stress baker. So this is a super stressful situation. And so she bakes a lot. So there are some recipes in the book. And it's just been, got such a fun uh, entire immersion in the cozy mystery world, from the TikToks to the Instagram reels to the communities that I've begun circulating in and the people that I've met. It's just been refreshing and amazing and awesome. Um, I think a lot of times when we decide to move into a new genre, we do it kind of secretly. And I have done that in the past, but I told myself this time I wasn't going to do that. I was going to approach it as a whole new career, taking everything that I've learned over the last 10 years in steamy small town romance and applying it as it applies to this new genre. And it has been really, really fun. So I don't know if you need a palate cleanser a decade into a career, here's my solution. We'll find out next week how the launch went and how everything is looking. But wish me luck. In the meantime, please have a good time listening to Mona talk about her writing career and her processes. And as always, I would love to hear from you. You're welcome to email me at nancy@evidentinc.com. I have started doing a ton more coaching, and that has been a blast. I have learned that my very favorite thing is chatting with other authors, helping them unwind plot problems or just work through all of sort of the main story elements that they need to construct a plot. I usually will read a little bit ahead of time if the author has some brainstorms that they've put together. And then we'll chat on a video call for an hour, hour and a half. And then I will deliver as many pages of notes as I take while we're talking. My only goal for the author I'm chatting with is that you just bring your brain. I don't want them to take notes. I don't want them to be reading passages while we're doing this. I just want them to relax and let the brainstorm happen while I take all the documentation that I need to and then return it to them in a pretty organized, almost outline. I don't know why I can do this for other people, but cannot do it for myself. But anyway, that has been super fun. So if you're interested in working through a story problem or plotting out a new book, please get in touch. I would love to help you with that. And as always, we are editing. So schedule those early. We are usually booked out at least 3 months in advance for developmental and copy edits, and sometimes can work a proofread in on a little shorter timetable, but I wouldn't count on it. Always a great idea to book ahead. And if you're looking to learn more about Evident Inc. services, our website is evidentinc.com. So let's get into the episode. I'll see you there. Let's start with a quick introduction. I know who you are, but can you kind of talk about who you are and what you write for those who might not already know you, Mona?
Yeah, I'm Mona Shroff, and I write contemporary romance. I'm currently writing for Harlequin's special edition category. I have also written for HQN, which is slash Canary Street Press now, I think.
Okay.
This poster back here is going to be my ninth, and there's a little novella in there. My first ever novella is in the back of that, so 10th book. So that's kind of exciting for me this year. I get to publish my 10th book. I live in Maryland. I'm an empty nester. My daughter just got married. I have a little rescue dog that I got during COVID, during all that.
Didn't we all?
Yeah. And so that's me quickly, I guess.
Okay, awesome. And so contemporary romance is super broad. Do you specialize in any way, shape, or form, or just the gamut?
So I think my books basically are about not just the couple, but about families. So I have a lot of family interaction, interference, call it what you want, involved in all of my books. It's very rare that it's just the two people and say like a best friend or something. I always try to have, even with these smaller category books, I try to have some little subplot going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they do basically talk about families. We write what we know. So my characters tend to be mostly Indian, Indian living in the States because that is what I know.
Sure.
And that's not to say that I won't expand out all of that in some way, shape, or form at some point. But so far, that's where we are. So generally, my books will have a lot of food, a lot of family, um, some fun holiday that maybe you don't know about, or maybe you do, that kind of thing. So
I
yeah,
know the food part is legit because I've read a couple of your books and they have left me hungry.
I've heard that. Yes.
Yes. Very good. Well, so I kind of when did we meet? We met at our was it at RWA or was it Washington Romance
I think
Writers?
it
How did we
was
meet?
Washington, maybe. Um, one of those. I think we
Like
met at my first one. Eloisa James was speaking, and did we get
yes,
coffee
yes,
in our break? Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
That sounds
Maybe
right.
that was it. Yeah.
And so I have no concept of time anymore, but that was prior to you publishing your first book. Is that right?
That yes, because my first book came out in 2020.
2020.
Um,
Okay, so
I
that's what I
don't
was getting
know.
to.
Yeah, I don't know if at that time I'd already gotten an agent and a deal. I don't think I had an agent and a deal because I got my agent sort of semi through pitching at a WRW conference or something. And so, yeah, so we met a long time ago.
It does seem like a long time ago. It was all there's like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's so funny
Pre-pandemic.
the number of things I'm like, oh, yeah, that was 2019.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Pre
like a whole new
pandemic.
world.
Hmm.
Well, so I know that you did not go to college to become a writer. Um, so talk a little bit about sort of how you grew up, whether you always thought you would be a writer, how you came into this field.
So my story is pretty common, but when I was in fourth grade, they had what they called the Young Authors Contest, and it was super fun. You write a little, 9-year-old, you write a little story, you draw the pictures, and then I guess now I know it was some mom bound it. It was like just cardboard binding, but it was laminated. It looked very official. It was a
Yeah.
legit book. So I entered that contest in fourth grade, and I won. I mean, there was a bunch of winners, so I was one of many winners. And then I won it again in fifth grade. Again, one of many winners. And I kind of was like, "Oh, I really like this. I want to be an author when I grow up." And then fast forward to like high school, whatever. And, being an author is not necessarily the most stable way. Like if you're just going to sit down and write a novel, you don't know what's going to happen with it. And at the time, so then, I went the science route and I ended up in optometry school and I became an optometrist to have sort of that solid paycheck. And I love being an optometrist. It was good. I enjoyed it. I always kept sort of doodling like little essays on the side and journaling. That writing was always a part of me.
Yeah.
And then I think like in my mid 40s at some point I was like, boy, if I don't really try this writing thing, I'll just not ever know if I ever could have done it. You know. At that point my kids were 10, 11, 12 around there. And so they didn't really need me to like bathe them and do all that kind of stuff. So I had some freedom, not a ton, but some. So I thought, let's just try. And that was when I started this particular writing journey. It was probably about, oh my God, 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, time is weird. It like condenses, contracts. Some things feel like they've been forever. Some things feel like it was yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
well, okay. So 10 books at this point. Um,
Mhm.
so you, I'm guessing, have kind of an established process. Like there's a way that you go about figuring out what the next book is going to be. So kind of, can you talk me through that a little bit? Like where do the ideas come from? And then when you have like, okay, I kind of know what this book's going to be about, what do you do next?
So my ideas come from like everyday conversations that I have with people. That one behind me, that my husband and I took a trip to Ireland, and we went to Ireland because he had a meeting. Hey, I'm a meeting in Ireland. Do you want to come? Sure. And I fell in love. I didn't expect to. I just loved it. We did like a road trip. We had the best time. It was so much fun. And I took copious notes because I was like, I am setting a book here. So it's my first book that I've set outside of the country. But like, so that was one way of getting an idea. So one of the things that they talk about that in a tour in Ireland, they talked about this place called Cleary's Clock. It's basically a clock over a department store somewhere in Dublin. I couldn't see it when I was there because it was under construction, but I heard the story of it. And the story of it was that it's a place where people meet. I'll meet you under Clary's clock.
Okay.
And then, so families meet, couples meet, blind dates, So one story was that it was a blind date and you're supposed to meet by like 8 o'clock. You give them 15 minutes. If they don't come, they're not coming. So I just thought that that was a really cute premise I wanted to stick it in a story somewhere.
Sure.
That's literally where that book came from.
Okay.
So now Claire's Clock is in it at some point. But like that kind of thing. So I was traveling and I heard this story. I had another, I had a young woman, she's a teenager, ask me. So her mom is Indian and her dad is not, and she reads all of my books, and she was like, hey, Mona Auntie, do you think you would ever write a book about like my parents? She's like, I would love to see my parents in a book, like an Indian woman and a non-Indian guy. And I was like, actually, sure. So that's what I'm working on currently.
Cool. So kind of almost like not, I don't want to say clash of cultures, but the learning process that
Yeah.
goes hand in hand with the learning process you already have in a relationship.
This was a young girl, so she enjoyed seeing the Indian part of her in the books that I had, like that part of her, but she didn't see herself, right?
Yeah.
She didn't see her parents. And so I was like, okay, let's have at it. So I get all these ideas from talking to people like that. Then I kind of decide how these people might approach each other. These two were enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers. So I kind of go with like a trope somewhere that I like, or sometimes I've actually picked the trope and then made it work. And like the first time I did enemies to lovers, or the first time I did fake relationship, I was like, there has to be like a fake relationship. That's going to be a major trope here.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and for category, you have to have a couple tropes at play, don't you?
yeah, I have a bunch of tropes in each book. It's very, very tropey. I'll add them in, and then honestly, I wish I had more of a solid process, but once I kind of get that kind of thing going, I will just start typing. Like I might have an idea of who my heroine is and who the hero is, like if it's fake relationship or does one of them fall first. I have a sibling's best friend, and I decided that he had been in love with his sister's best friend and she was clueless.
It's fun.
And then I might give them an occupation, and then I just start writing. I might have a scene in my head, and then I just start typing and I see where it takes me.
So does it work all the way through the book like that? Or when you start just going, do you hit walls? Like, oh God, I don't know.
I hit walls all
Good.
the time.
I mean, not
And
good, but makes me feel better.
yeah, no, I hit walls all the time. And sometimes I'll even start with like the black moment. Like I'll be like, okay, this is going to be the horrible
This
moment.
confuses me. How can you write the black moment if you haven't like gotten to know your characters?
Well, sometimes I decide what I want the black moment to be, and then I make the characters work to that.
Okay.
Honestly, it's really, so I will sometimes start writing the characters and then I'll get an idea for the black moment and I'll write it out to see how it plays out.
Like, okay, this is probably going to happen. Maybe this will happen. Like, you
I
actually
have
write the scene.
I have to write them out of order. I mean, I can write some of them in order, but when I hit a wall, so if I'm writing like they're meet cute and I'm introducing them and now they're going to do this and that's all great. And then all of a sudden, now what do? I might I might stop there and come up with either the black moment, or I might think about how do I want them to resolve the black, what's the big issue, what is bringing them, what is keeping them from each other. I have to ask
Yeah.
myself all those questions we ask ourselves. Like, it's a contemporary, so they can't solve it with just a conversation,
Right.
right? So there's something that's keeping them. So I kind of have to, while I'm writing it, I'm delving into their backstory. Who are they? Where did they come
Yeah.
from? What is their wound? Like, what is holding them back from just asking her out? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's grown ups. It's not a big deal to date your sister's best friend. Who cares? But if you put in the fact that, you know, the girl had cancer and that he lost his parents and, all these other things that are happening, and she's like a wild card and he likes order,
Yep.
all those kinds of things you can add in, and you can figure out why he's not just being like, can we just go on a date?
Yeah. So you
Which
figure that all out kind of as you write, not like a lot of people will sit down and get that all laid out ahead of time. Like when I coach somebody, those are a lot of the questions that we answer before they dive in.
So I have those questions for myself that need to be answered. And I have tried to worksheet it, like
Yeah.
sit down and just fill it out. But a lot of times those answers just don't come to me until I start writing these people, until I see how they talk to each other,
Yeah.
how they deal with their families. Who is their family? Do they have parents? Do they have siblings? Are they the middle child, the youngest child, the oldest child? And what does that mean to them? How do they react to their environment? What is their job?
So
You know,
writing for you is almost like using that. Remember that invisible ink thing that we were little kids and you'd like
yes.
reveal the message as you're like, so your typing is almost like revealing the story to yourself.
It really is. It's revealing the characters to myself. And, I tried I thought that's how you were supposed to do it, with an outline and I'm not
Yes,
saying
cards.
and note cards. I used to use note cards. Now I have one of these books,
Uh-huh.
right? In which I jot down the character names because I forget what I named them and all that.
Right.
And then their relationships to each other. And some days I won't even type. Some days I just free write. Open up that book and a good pen, and I'm just like, okay, then this could happen, then this could happen, and what if this happened, and what if he said this, and what if she said that, and on and on. And it's, no one else can read it or understand it but me. It's completely just thoughts on a page. But a lot of times that'll spark some creativity, or it'll spark, oh, that's what needs to happen. Like, that feels right to me. And then I can come up with a scene. And so that's how sometimes I can write that black moment, because I might not have typed it, but I might have been free writing it or thinking about it. And every one of my books has a playlist.
And
I
do
listen,
you
yeah.
listen to it while you write?
No, I listen to it. I will listen to like the song that's supposed to be like their sexy time song sometimes, just to get that part right.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of times I just kind of listen to their songs while I'm driving, while I'm cooking or something. Cause I pick the song because I'm driving and I hear it and I'm like, okay, that belongs to this couple. And I'll go back to that song when I need inspiration, because sometimes the music will remind me what it was that I was thinking of, or it'll give me another viewpoint, or all of it. Like, it might just be like a line. And I'll be like, no, that's his line. That's who he
Oh, I
is,
love that.
or for her, I'm like, this is her response. And it's not, it's a bit chaotic. But I have leaned into it the last few books because it works. I do definitely hit that moment where I'm like, I suck at this. Why am I doing this? It's
Everybody
never going
hits
to
that.
get done.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is that I have a book due in August. I've known this book is due in August for many months. There's no point, and there's actually no point to starting. It's July, May, June. So I just started. I've been thinking about them. So I have started to like write down their stuff. The reality is I'm going to write between now and end of July, 30,000, 35 if I'm lucky. If I'm lucky, I'll
Yeah.
get half the words down. Probably not. In those last 3 weeks before it's done, that whole story will come out.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just being a procrastinator, but the more and more I do what you're doing, which is talking to other authors, I'm finding out that my brain needs all that time. to figure out who these people are and what they're going to do. And then it just comes out in a rush in 3 weeks. I literally write like 8 to 10 hours a day for 3 weeks
Wow.
to get it done. It sucks. My
Yeah.
husband is used to it. He knows it's time for takeout. He knows he's not going to see me. You know, I'm just going to be in like leggings and I'm going to come out and I'm going to eat. I'm going to come back. I'll
Yeah.
see you later. And I, you know, the closer I get to deadline, the more intense it gets. And I don't know why that's how it works for me. Right now,
I have that too. Mine is not as I think I don't trust myself enough that I will actually sit down and write for the 8 to 10 hours required to hit the deadline. So I force myself to eke out just a little bit every day if I can. But
mhm.
I do know that I will have to think about everything a long time before I can actually put it down. And even if I'm sort of writing it, if I read it the night before and go to bed, then I feel like my brain does stuff. And in the
Yep.
morning, I sort of automatically know what needs to be fixed and where to go from there.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. That it just takes me this much time to get to know the characters so that I know how they'll respond. The last book I turned in, I finished it on, it was due on a Friday, and I finished it Thursday night. Like I got it done,
Yeah.
and I didn't type the end, and I didn't hit send, and because something was off.
Oh.
And so I went to bed and I got up in the morning and I sat down in front of my computer at like 7 and I looked at like the last scene, right? It's that it's the black moment on. So it wasn't that much left. And I was like, no, this isn't right. And all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, that's because he wouldn't say that. He would say this.
Ah.
I deleted the entire ending and wrote it on Friday and just sent it to her.
Oh my gosh.
But you know, I've been working with Susan at special edition for 5 or 6 books, right? So she and I know each other now. She
Yeah.
knows I'm going to send her something that's decent. I will never claim to write clean, and she knows she's going to send me edits,
Yeah.
and that's okay. So
Well, that's
I'm okay with tons and tons of edits. It doesn't do anything to me. I'm like, thank you.
yeah.
I'm gonna sit down and we're gonna polish this baby up, and then it's gonna be fine.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are definitely writers. I'm one of them who gets edits back and is like, don't
That's
love me.
that's how I feel when I'm drafting. I'm like, why don't I know how to do this?
Yeah.
And my whole family's like, you know, I think you know how to do this. I'm like, I don't really know. I don't think
They're
that's
like, we hear this every single book. Just get
yes.
through it.
Right. Right. Now they don't even comment. They just roll their eyes at me like here she goes
Right.
again.
Well, so let's talk about actual process. How do you actually do it? What do you use for writing? What kinds of software tools? Do you use an editing software at all? What do you use?
I do Word. I have a Word document. So it's pretty basic.
Yeah.
I've thought about using some of the other tools, but then I didn't want to spend the time to learn how to use them, to be
Yeah.
fair. So I'm pretty old school. I like Word. I like that book, and I like my Post-its.
Yeah.
I mean, I could, here's,
Those
I like
bodies are really big. I didn't know they made them that big.
I have some lined ones that are big. I have this size. I have, I have this size, and then I have like the little tabby size, and I have like an empty closet door to my left over here, and
That's
I
cute.
will yeah, I start on my desk, and then towards the end it moves over there, and I can see my story. So by the time I'm done, my desk is covered with paper and Post-its, and they're all color coded in my head. I understand. Nobody else will. I
Huh.
understand. She gets a color, he gets a color, and then like other reminders get a color. I don't, the whole
That's
thing.
like
And
plotting, Mona. It's just
huh?
that that's like plotting, but you
Yeah,
just do it as you go instead of ahead of time.
right. No, I mean there is plotting that happening. I just don't know ahead of time
Yeah.
that this is the chapter that's going to happen today. I don't know that.
Gotcha. Well,
It's
that's so
it's
interesting.
it's
Okay, well, so
scary.
once the book is done and you finally type the end, I know you have because you're traditionally published. You probably you don't have to worry a whole lot about the editing process. You send it to your publisher, and then you go through a couple rounds. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Okay.
I think with special edition, it's working a little bit faster. So Susan will do like a big developmental. Sometimes just because of publishing and timing and stuff, sometimes she'll send me like someone's already done like certain copy edits and stuff, and she'll be like, "Don't touch it. I'm sending you the developmentals," or she'll send me developmentals and she'll be like, "Think about it. The copy edits are coming," and then we just do it all at the same time.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so, which isn't really that much of a big deal. I kind of ignore like the copy edits or this word is used too many times. And if I'm doing
Yeah.
developmentals, I'm going to change all of that anyway.
Yes. Wouldn't they have to do the copy edit again?
Then I get, so then what happens is I send it to her and then I get like a final copy.
Gotcha.
It's called an AA. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the AA stands for, but it's the last like copy edit, whatever type of thing. So I go through all of those. And while I'm doing, like, I'm not technically supposed to change the text, but
Right.
if I think of something, I'll just throw it in there. Susan's never not got so, as long as I'm not like adding paragraphs and like changing the plot or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if I want to, add a few words or something, I have a chance at that point to do it. It's a little bit special edition, so the category is a little bit faster turnaround than my HQN books. For them, I definitely had a developmental, hand that back in, copy, hand that back in. So,
Yeah.
but the turnaround on that is like 18 months. And the
That's what I was going to
turnaround,
ask. So what's the total for
yeah,
special edition then? What's it like?
like a nine,
Yeah.
like
So
9 months. Like, yeah,
it's
yeah.
still a lengthy process. So from
Yeah.
conceptualization to actual publishing, about a year?
Yeah, about a year. So 9 months is from like the day I turn in my manuscript to when it comes out. So, like last year I turned in a manuscript in March and it came out in December within
Yeah.
that same year. So that it's been basically 9 months. By the time they do cover art uh and all that kind of stuff, it's
So
about nine
do you
months.
have
Yeah.
a couple books going at a time in different phases then? Because I mean, if you've got 10 books out and it's only been five
Yeah, so
years,
I will be drafting and then I might get my edits for the one I turned in. And for my edits, I like to just do a deep dive. So I will stop drafting for
yeah,
that week or two or whatever, and just consume myself with those characters again back into their world and get those edits done.
yeah,
And I'll work like around the clock. I work like for edits and stuff. I'm like, the words are already there.
I
I
know.
just have to fix them.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
I find it
Um,
intimidating until I get into it. Like when the
yeah,
whole book is in front of me and I'm like, oh God, it's awful. I have to fix it. But then once I'm back in it, I'm like,
yeah,
oh, it's just like this word needs to move over here. Like, yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah, 100%. And so I don't really get to beta. I don't get beta readers for the categories or anything like that. I do. I mean, I do finish it. I do have a chance to make at least another pass or two before I hand it in.
Okay.
Um, but some days I am writing the ending right before I hit send.
Fair. You get
But
it
I
done.
know it'll
That's
be
all that
okay. I
matters.
know, like, I trust my editor and she trusts me, so I know it will be okay. Like, it may not be the prettiest thing right now, but it'll be fine.
Well, I think that just that confidence comes with having done it a couple times, knowing what you're doing, trusting yourself. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
true.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, so since you are handing it off to the publisher, then do you still have a street team? Do you have ARC readers? Do they handle that? How much pre-marketing and launch concern do you have to actually employ?
Probably more than what I actually do. Um, so I don't have a street team just yet, only because I haven't gotten myself together to do it. I just started a newsletter and I missed April, oh, and May. So, I will get
Don't
one
forget
out in
it.
June. I will get
It's
one
fine.
out in June. So I did finally, after so many years, finally break down and do a newsletter. I don't have a street team. What I do is, I always get my box of ARCs from Harlequin. I give them away. social media. I'm just like, you can have it. If you DM me, you can have one. You don't have to do anything for it except tell me you want it, and I'll
Yeah.
mail it out. So I try to get as much of those of my arcs out as possible. And the readers are usually pretty good about, posting that they got it, and then after they read it, posting that they liked it or their review and that kind of thing. And they do it closer to the release date and that kind of thing. So that's pretty, and then and that's it, besides some Instagram like posts and stuff like that I'll do, like getting closer and closer, like now, like pre-order now. I just got done setting up a in-person signing at my local indie bookstore
Cool.
for this particular release. And I, as we were speaking earlier before, it was literally coming to do this video with you that I was like, oh, I should just write an email to the bookstore and be done with it. And I
Right. I think
did.
there's something in the air because I just did that too. To two local, actually three local independent bookstores. One of them is big. It's the Tattered Cover,
Hmm.
uh, and surprisingly, they were like super responsive. I don't know why I didn't ever think
Yeah.
that I should do that before,
Yeah.
but
I've done it before, and I've done signings at our local Barnes and Nobles and things. Um, I just think sometimes life gets in the way, or I think I got a little bit weary. And but yeah, so now I have that.
that's
That's
cool.
coming up in August as well. That's my local thing. So that's kind of the marketing that I do. I go to some book cons. Um, when I can. I just did a local book festival here
Yeah,
in
let's talk about
Maryland.
that a little bit because well, there's the reader events and then there's kind of community building and craft focused
Yeah.
events. So how do you how do you keep refilling your writerly well and how do you maintain a sense of community and connection in such a solitary profession?
So I have built friendships through the Washington romance as well as the Maryland romance writers. And and to the point where now we're like, they're my friends, right? Not
Yeah.
just not just colleagues. And so we talk about things, even if I can't make a meeting, which I haven't been able to make a meeting in a long time because it's literally on the one day I go to the office still and I can't make the meetings, but they'll let me know that, oh, the Gaithersburg Book Festival is coming up. Do you want to participate? I said yes. Or I'm going to hold a signing. Do you want to participate? When I do a signing, I reach out to them via email. And that's what I did for this independent one. I don't ever want to do one by myself. I need other people there too. So
Yep.
I reached out to a bunch of women and of authors, and I was like, "Do you want to join me?" And some of them can make it, so they're going to. And when we see each other, maybe we'll have a meal before or a meal after, and touch base, and kind of
Yeah.
keep connected that way. The Gaithersburg Book Festival was amazing because I think it might be the first time back since COVID. And the Baltimore Book Festival is also coming back. We lost it during COVID. It's theoretically coming back this September. So that was really a nice thing to do. We were all together in our MRW tent and, just catching up about the industry and process and what's going on with everybody. And so it's
Yeah.
definitely, and these kinds of videos, like I haven't seen your face
I
live, I
know.
guess, like this in years and years. We haven't chatted. Um, but so yeah, I think that those kinds of things are important. I've also started to allow myself more time to actually read,
Yeah.
because we were readers first, and I forgot for a long time like how much I enjoy losing myself
Yes.
in a good book or a series or whatever. And it may be romance, it may not be.
That's what I was going to ask. So, is there a thing that you normally reach for? Like, if you don't have a book and you're like, I need a good book, where do you go first? What section of the store?
You know what? I reach out to people. I'm like, give me a recommendation. And that's what I did for my daughter. I asked my daughter. I was I had a little surgery a few months ago, and knew I was going to recover, and I was going to read.
Yeah.
And I'm like, give me something to read. And she handed me Court of Thorn and Roses
That'll,
books, a new obsession. And then I started reading thrillers. I don't know why.
I love thrillers.
I don't actually, but now I do. I didn't think I liked them, but I have a couple of thrillers going on in my head. Um And now I've sort of been drawn to the thriller, and I'm really enjoying that. Um, I'm really enjoying it. These psychological kind of thrillers,
Yeah.
I'm really kind of enjoying them.
There's
So,
an author named Ruth Ware who is, I don't know if you've read her, but she's my, like, if she has a book out, I read it. And I
okay.
have one going right now that just released, that I think I pre-ordered because it just popped up on my Kindle and I was like, ooh.
Ooh,
But I
that-
like look forward to going to bed because I know I get to read this book. And it's like every 3 months or so I'm in a book like that where
yeah.
like I'm so excited about reading it.
Yeah. So that was the romantasy thing. What was fun about that is I read it with my daughter.
Oh, that's cool.
So she lives across the country now. So she was a little bit ahead of me. So she would be like waiting for me to like and I would send her my theories and we would talk, and as soon as I finished one, we would chat about it. And so
That's
I'm
fun.
waiting for her now. So we're waiting for each other. So she wants to read Fourth Wing with me. So I was like, okay, we'll go down that romantasy together.
Very fun.
So really, honestly, it's just fun to be able to do something like that, you know,
Yeah.
with her, which we used to do, when she was living at home.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to continue to do that. So yeah.
Well, so you used the word allow myself to read, and I want to veer off a little bit and talk a little bit about wellness and sort of self care and mindset stuff. So how do you keep yourself motivated to keep coming back to your desk? And what do you do when you're not at your desk to try to make sure that your body and mind stay where you need them to be?
Yeah, it can be a struggle, right? Because as you did say, writing is kind of a solitary thing, and I'm not an introvert even. I mean, maybe a little bit, but um I like people.
Yeah.
Um I mean, I do regular exercise. We have the dog, I have to walk her. I joined a bar class. I do that. I have a Peloton, so I do try to keep physically active
Yeah.
daily. Now over 50, like there's really no choice. You
There
must.
really
And
is
I sit
not.
all day. I sit when I write. So
Yeah.
you gotta move your body. Um I think the thing that keeps me going is the fact that I don't want to stop. Like I really, really enjoy it. Um I don't want to stop writing. I think like many of our contemporaries, we get frustrated with the industry. Sometimes I get a little bit obsessed with, are the books selling? Or is anybody out there? Is anybody reading them?
Yeah.
Um, and when I kind of go down that rabbit hole a little bit, I just try to pull myself back and remind myself that I'm actually doing what I love.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I love, and not everybody gets to do that. So I have a lot of gratitude for the fact that I'm able to do what I love.
Yes.
And that I do, and that maybe I don't hit a list, maybe I'm not a bestseller. That doesn't mean that I'm not contributing. Like and it's hard because there are days where you're like, I think I should hit a list today. Or I think
Nice.
it would be
On
nice.
the list, you say today.
Right. I know it would be nice, you know. But to be fair, it's in 4 years I have 10 books out, so it hasn't been nothing,
Yes,
you
that is
know.
not nothing.
Um,
More than nothing.
right, and I'm working on 3 right now, so
Yeah.
I feel like that always gets me back to writing, is the fact that I really like it. And I have been thinking a little bit outside of romance. Like I said, I have a thriller. I'm working on a women's fiction right now. I still love romance. I still have the romances going. I don't know that I would ever leave romance, but
Yeah.
I do feel at this point I might be willing to broaden. And I think that made me um feel more like coming to the computer, because I could bring other ideas.
Yeah. I suffer from that.
Yeah.
Do something new bug.
Yeah, and the reading, I said allow myself because for the longest time I wasn't reading as much, or I was reading only romance. And only to be sort of prepped to go to a book signing or to do an interview or something, not because I really wanted to. for
Yeah.
a while. Um, and I think that wasn't really good for me. So I think having a little bit of time where I couldn't really write, I couldn't really do anything but read, and getting great recommendation from my child was really a good place. It did get that, it got me going again to the point where I'm like, I don't have to read. I don't have to read just what's back there.
Yeah.
I can go get new books.
Yeah.
And I did. And so it's been great. It's been great. I mean, I still read romance. I just got done reading one. Um, and I'm in the middle of I can't read the thriller before I go to bed.
Oh,
I have to
really?
read a romance. I can't sleep. I have to read a romance. So I have a thriller that I'm reading all day. And then I have a romance that I'll read a few pages of before I go to sleep. So I have happy
Oh, that's
thoughts in
funny.
my head. So that's where I am with that.
Well, so do you participate in any sort of mindset activities to actively try to put yourself in a certain frame of mind? Do you meditate or um, read, self-help craft kind of go-go books? You can tell I don't by the way I talk. Helpful books on influencing the way you approach life in general.
I don't.
Me neither.
I don't read them. And that's not to say that I don't think that they're of value. I don't read them. I don't meditate. I've tried meditation for many, 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 many years. I've tried it and I just haven't been able to honestly give myself over to it.
Okay.
I do find that making sure that I get to bar class or get on the Peloton or lift or whatever and make sure that I do, and even walk, whether it's walking the dog or just going for a walk with my husband or something, that those kinds of things do more for me, mind and body, sometimes than actual meditation. Although I do feel like when I am driving, I do get some of my best ideas.
Yeah.
Weird.
Mine are shower ideas usually.
Yeah.
Like when there's no, you literally cannot do anything else.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
You
because
can't do
otherwise I
it.
multitask.
Right. And I am trying not to multitask, and I'm finding it very difficult
Yeah.
to
Well,
just do one thing at a time.
and it has been suggested to me that this difficulty that I have with being still and not doing something all the time, which is the reason I don't meditate because I feel like I cannot.
Feel
It
like
is
you're not
hard.
doing anything. I
Yeah,
know.
and the people who have suggested that it would be good for me to do have said, well, there's a reason you cannot, and it is because you have not tried hard enough for long enough, and it is a skill, and you would probably benefit from trying to gain that skill. So
Hmm.
it's not right out. Someday I probably will decide that I need to learn it. Um,
Hmm.
Kelly Collins told me she uses only guided meditation for the same reason.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that. I did do when I was doing it, I was doing guided meditation and I did like it. The one that I was doing had an aspect of visualization. So you're forced to every day to, or every time you do it, to think about like where you want to be, like where you
Yeah,
would be in 3 years, that kind of thing. Um, and I honestly do believe in that visualization. I do believe that if you think about it and you see it, your psyche automatically works towards this goal
that makes
and
sense.
you reach the goal. Not really different than thinking about a couple of characters for a couple of months and then sleeping on it and typing away and then it comes to you when
That's a
you
good
need it.
point.
My brain needs that hard deadline. My brain needs to know. Like,
Yeah,
I've actually toyed with asking my agent to give me a fake deadline and not tell me when it's going to be due.
that's hilarious.
But anyway.
All right. Well, so we've gone through pretty much all the big stuff that I wanted to ask you about. One more kind of big picture question. What do you think is the most exciting thing about publishing right now, either for you personally or as you kind of look at the industry or pie in the sky?
I don't even know. I mean, for me, I can't really speak to the industry, but I guess for me right now, it's that I'm branching out into other areas outside of romance.
Yeah.
Like I'm actively on submission for a women's fiction right now, that I'm really excited about.
Cool.
And the more I read thrillers, the more and more the thrillers in my mind are coming up. I mean, I don't even know how to write one. That's why I continue to read them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for myself, I'm excited about the different paths that I might be able to take. Knowing that romance is still here,
Yeah.
because I still love reading a good romance. I'm excited. I took some time off. I wasn't writing the romance for the past couple of months. I was writing the women's fiction. And when I opened up the computer yesterday to actually start writing about these two characters, it was kind of this feeling of comfort and like coming home. Like, I'm like, okay, I got these two people.
Yeah.
Let's make this
I know
book
how to
happen.
do this.
Whereas
Yeah.
like with the women's fiction, even though it's not too far off, I feel like I'm a little bit in the wilderness over there. It's more challenging. This is still challenging, but it felt good to come back to it after
Yeah,
a few.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm writing a cozy mystery. I don't know if I told you that.
Oh, that's so fun.
I'm launching a new pen name and exploring a whole new world. But it is, like you said, it's like I am like hacking my way through a jungle with a machete. I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going. I'm like over here. No.
No.
So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to stepping back to write the next romance book in my series because
Mhm.
I think that it will feel that way, comfortable, like I'm
Yeah.
settling back into my
But
favorites here.
I feel like a cozy mystery from your brain would be so good.
We'll see.
I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't read more of your recent stuff, but I remember a few years ago reading like Boom, 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 your soccer series,
Oh.
and loving it. I was like, I couldn't stop reading it. Like, it was my nighttime read. I loved it. I
Well,
loved
it's
it.
it's definitely not for everybody. It's my sense of humor, which I know is an
It was
acquired taste
sweet.
for some.
It was very good. No, it was very good. So I would look forward to a cozy mystery from you.
Well, I look forward to all the stuff you're doing. Tell me what's so the book behind you is the next book, and it's Road Trip Rivalry
Hmm.
coming out with Harlequin. When is that going to come out, and is it available for pre-order right now?
It comes out on August 20th as this book and the Christmas novella. It's also coming out as a 2-in-1 with, and I don't have it, with Brenda Novak.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um,
cool.
and so it's Brenda's book in the front and then my book in the back, but both of them are like new stories.
That's so
Because I
cool.
have a few 2-in-1s with my backlist, but it's the backlist of the bigger author as well. So this is one way in which Harlequin is trying to get my books out there, is by putting it with another book with a big author.
Yeah, that's
Um,
really exciting.
yeah, so to celebrate the 75th, Road Trip Rivalry will be with Brenda Novak's book. It's also available like this. So,
And
but
that's
this is
the
the only way to
story.
get the novella.
That's the Ireland story.
Yes, that's the Ireland story. So
Awesome.
it's
Okay.
available for pre-order and it comes out August 20th. So it's rivals, rivals to um, rivals to lovers.
Love it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, anything else that I did not ask you about that you wanted to be sure to say?
No,
Okay.
no, I think this was a great discussion. It was great to catch up with you a little bit.
You can find story writing tips, tricks, coaching, and courses at our site, www.evidentinc.com. Get live feedback in our writing community at Facebook at facebook.com/evidentinc. And find past episodes of Story Strategy at our YouTube channel. Story powers the world, and we can't wait to help you tell yours.